Business operations module. In this first lesson, we're going to be talking about customer service. And while customer service is definitely not the most exciting lesson or topic to go over, it's really, really important. And I think it's one of the key pillars of any successful e-commerce business. In fact, really, it's one of the key pillars of any successful business, period. If you look at all of the if you look at all of the best businesses out there right now that are doing fantastic, like Amazon or Apple or some of these really big brands, they have great customer service. It's like a key foundation of what they're doing, the way that they are innovating and making sure the customer is always taken care of. Okay, so if you want to build a sustainable business, then you need to have a good customer service strategy. And actually, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have a really strong background in customer service because the first successful $1 million company that I built was a photo booth company. And I think I mentioned this earlier at some point, but basically, photo booth services was a rising trend in the United States, especially where I was based on the East Coast and in the Philadelphia area. And so I had a partner and we started selling these photo booth services, and it was an e-commerce business, right? Everything was all online, and that was actually one of our core competencies, is that I innovated in an industry that was very like stagnant and very outdated, and then brought this entire new concept of e-commerce to the photo booth industry, and it started working amazing, and setting up ads in all these different cities. And then basically everything on the sales side was e-commerce, right? But then on the actual fulfillment side, this was done by real people. We would hire independent contractors in different cities all around our area. I would go train these independent contractors so that when we would book events, they would then grab the equipment from a local storage unit, and they would go to the event to set up the photo booth and operate during the event, then bring it back. So we're talking about events that were like weddings and bar mitzvahs, sweet 16, retirement party, birthday party, special events for companies and corporations, and really important events, right? Like, to the organizers that were putting this together, these were big moment events. They had guests there. Sometimes these were once in a lifetime events, like a wedding or a sweet 16. So, and you're dealing with a mother or you're dealing with a bride, high stress situation. You have somebody show up, even if it's not our fault, something doesn't work, or the photo booth attendant does something wrong, and all of a sudden you have people that are furious on the phone with you, calling. And of course, this was we got to a point where eventually customer service was managed by people, but in the beginning this was all me handling this, right? Like, I was operating the company, I was building and growing this company. So when something went wrong in an event, that call got routed to me, and I had to develop strategies very quickly, learn very quickly how to diffuse situations, how to make sure you were always doing everything you could to make the client happy, right? Or make the customer happy. And basically the idea is simple, right? The idea is that you always want to give the person the service that makes them feel respected, service that makes them understand and feel like you actually care. It doesn't always mean that the customer is 100% right, okay? I do not believe in that theory, and anybody that wants to challenge me on that, I guarantee that I could tell you some situations where it's no doubt that the customer was not right. But in theory of, is the customer somebody that you should always respect and make them feel like they are your priority? Yes, absolutely. They are always right in that sense, that they are your customer. They are the one supporting your business. They are the one giving you an income, right? They are the one that are allowing you to build this business and live this lifestyle. So 100%, the customer is always right in the sense that they should be your number one priority if they have an issue, or they have a complaint, or they have something that's wrong. Okay, now how you handle that and how you diffuse that situation, I think, is going to depend on exactly what happened, because there are situations where the actual complaint or what the customer is demanding is not right, and I've seen a lot of different situations, but I just wanted to give you that background because I've seen that it's interesting to me. I think that was actually an advantage for me coming into e-commerce because I see a lot of people that struggle with this and they run drop shipping businesses, and when something happens or they run into issues, it brings their business to a halt. That never happened with me with drop shipping. You see people out there saying, oh, you can't run a business where you have 2 to 3 week shipping times. People are going to be so upset and so angry and blah, 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 blah. It never happened with me, right? Like, sure, I had a couple customers here and there that were pissed off. You're always going to have that if you sell enough orders to enough people. But by and large, overall, no, that didn't happen. So now, is it a lot to handle? Absolutely, okay? It can get to be a lot to handle, and you need to have systems in place so that you can manage this. Otherwise, it can bring your business to a screeching halt. And I've met people, not just I've met people, several people that I know that were good at selling, were good at marketing, say with Facebook ads and scaling a campaign to sell a lot of orders, but they were terrible at customer service. They just didn't have a system in place. They didn't have anything prepared or ready. And so they start getting emails and emails and emails coming in, and they don't know what to do. They're not responding to them. These emails are piling up. All of a sudden, you've got a bunch of pissed off customers starting to do refunds and chargebacks, and now your accounts are getting shut down. Your Facebook page is getting flagged. All this negative feedback coming on you. You're sending out refunds every single day. Your payment processor is holding your money. Like, it can become a real nightmare, all based on, listen to me, the example that I just said right there was all simply based on not having a proper customer service system in place. It is so simple to avoid, but you've got to be aware of this and you've got to be proactive about it, okay? 3 main areas that we're going to talk about with customer service. One is order support and questions from your store. The other is social media management. And finally, disputes, chargebacks, and refunds. Order support for your store, number 1. Okay, this is before, during, and after the purchase. You should have the ability to be contacted and get in touch with your customers, or prior to their customers, your visitors. Okay, primary contact that I've always liked is an email address. All right, with e-commerce, having a phone number is fantastic, and as you saw in some of the earlier lessons, I definitely recommend getting an 800 number for your store. But in the beginning, unless you are really passionate about what you're selling, you probably don't want to be answering the phone, right? Now, I've done both, okay? Before anybody is about to judge me on what I say, I have built teams, I've answered phones, I've done it all myself, okay? So I know how to do it, I know how it works, but I don't think it's necessary when starting your Shopify store, okay? It's not necessary to get started. I still think you should have an 800 number, but you can just link it right into a voicemail so that people can leave you a voicemail and you can go through and listen to those later. If your store operations start to grow and scale, then you can set up an 800 number so that people can call, and you can hire a VA or outsource to a call center to be able to handle those incoming calls. All right. But definitely in the beginning, all you need is an email. Okay. And in the beginning, if it's you on top of this, you should be on top of it. Or if it's a VA, then they can be monitoring the email. But you want to have some sort of policy where you are getting back to people within, by email, you're getting back to people within 24 hours, right? You should definitely be quick to the draw on getting back to people. That's going to be fantastic customer service, right? The quicker you get back to them and let them know that you're there for whatever they need, that's going to impress people, because there are so many companies that drop the ball on this, even big companies, right? So always have a customer support email address that's very easily available and readily to see and find on your store, okay? And please use a real support email address from your actual store domain. I see people that use Gmail addresses and it's so unprofessional. You should definitely be using a real email address with your store domain. And you can forward your support email to a help desk software. I like Help Scout, that there's many of them out there. The company that I built with the photo booths, we used Zoho, so that's also a really good one, but that's going to be a matter of preference for you. Help Scout, Zendesk, Zoho, they're all good. And I think that I like Help Scout the most just because for me it's very intuitive the way they set up their mailbox, and you can have conversations and close conversations and assign conversations. You can set up multiple mailboxes for all your different stores all within one account, assign VAs here and there. So I just find it very simple and easy. Zoho I think can be a little bit more complex because it has so many features. And Zendesk I've never actually used. So anyway, you can do your research and look at that. Help Scout has a free trial, and then it's $20 a month per user. Also, very simple, okay, because you have email support. Most of your email support is going to be after purchase, okay? Some people will contact you before and maybe during purchase if you don't have another way to be contacted. But really, before and during purchase, you want to be able to get back to these people right away, because these are potential customers, and you might lose that customer if you wait for, if they send an email and then have to wait a day for you to get back to them, okay? So email support is generally after purchase. You want to set up Messenger at the minimum. I'm not going to go over all the different types of live talk messenger type integrations you can use for your store. There are a lot of them out there for sure, but Messenger is the most simple. It links right in with your Facebook business page. It's super easy to set up. You can even then tag your Messenger contacts into a chatbot or into like a subscription, right? So it's really simple, and it's something that you can easily have a VA manage, or if it's just you in the beginning, you can be managing it from your phone, right? So I would recommend it's getting this set up. And there's basic things you can do, like have a welcome message, have a respond message when you like a auto response message. So it's simple. I'm not going to go any more in depth than that, than to tell you that I recommend installing Messenger to your store so that you can field questions right in live time while people are shopping. Now, looking at emails, okay, email support is still one of the biggest factors of any e-commerce business, right? There are people that like to use the phone, don't get me wrong. Generally, I think older people, okay? I never, ever want to have to call a store or call any website, all right? The only time I call is if I absolutely have to and I have no choice. And I think a lot of people are like that. Email tends to be an easier response system. So the main reasons that you're going to get emails are going to be for order updates and tracking info, and for orders that were received but have some sort of problem. So what you really want to do to create a system within your customer service is identify all of the main reasons that you will receive an email and create a template for it, okay? Now, I'm giving you what I've already done. I've identified through the tens of thousands of orders that I've done, I've identified what 95% of all customer service emails equal, okay? Order, basically people looking for an order update or tracking info, and there's 4 types of responses that's going to fall into. Either the order wasn't shipped yet, because some people will be like, they'll order today and then tomorrow they'll contact you, and it hasn't even been a full 24 hours yet, and it's like, hey, look, your order wasn't shipped yet. There's a response for that. The order has been shipped, but there's no tracking yet. Now, this is something that is a little bit more dated, okay? If you're using WIO or you're using any type of direct supply chain, you're going to get a tracking number right away, all right? So you're not going to have to worry about that. What used to happen is people that were using Oberlo or Dropify, right? If you're sourcing from AliExpress, basically, that's what Oberlo and Dropify do. If you're sourcing from AliExpress, there's a period of time when that item is shipped before the tracking number actually registers in the system. Okay, so it might be a couple of days, sometimes it could be a week before that tracking number actually shows up. So the order's actually been shipped, but you don't have the tracking yet until it gets updated, through customs. So there's a response I had created for that. Order shipped with tracking, this is the most common one. And then order shipped and already delivered. What do you do if somebody says, hey, I never received my order, I want to check on the tracking? You check and the order was actually showing that it already got delivered, okay? And then the other category is, of course, if there's a problem with the order. So this will be the other main one. Again, if you are using a supplier like Weo, the app that I recommend, then you're probably not going to run into this very often, okay? But if you are shipping directly from AliExpress using something like Overlo or Shopify, this could be a huge problem. I know many people that have done fantastic numbers, but they had no quality control in place. And so they would ship out all these orders, and then all of a sudden they start getting all these customer emails talking about the item is damaged or defective or they're missing items. So I've had to deal with this too. I don't have to deal with this really as much anymore on 99% of things that go out because of using direct suppliers, but I still have the templates just in case. All right, this stuff makes it easier to be able to respond. So let's walk through a few example templates. Tracking. This is going to be your most common situation, and there are apps to help automate this, but I just want to go through because I have templates for them, all right? And I'm not going to waste too much time reading all of this out because you can see it, but I just want to point out a couple things on this template. First is the thank you for your purchase, okay? And this is so important. I always, no matter what, in any customer service I've ever done, built, or trained, always start by thanking the person. That is one of the quickest and easiest ways to diffuse any situation, is to thank the person and then apologize. All right. Now, in this situation, it says, I'm sorry you never received the confirmation email, but your order was shipped. And the reason for that is because a lot of times that's what people were saying, is they would be like, hey, I never received any kind of email telling me my order was shipped out or this or that, which is a problem that I've seen with Overlo and Shopify. So anyway, that's why I did that, right? And the psychology behind that is you are diffusing a person automatically. All right. It is very hard for a person to stay mad at you when you thank them and apologize at the same time in the very first thing that you say them. All right. So that's diffusing the situation and explaining to them also that their order was shipped. So kind of relieving them in case they thought their order wasn't shipped. All done in the first 2 lines. Now, the second paragraph is up for interpretation. It used to be 2 to 3 weeks, okay? But that's what it used to be with AliExpress, and that's what it may still be with you if that's what you're using right now, Overlo or Shopify. If you are, I highly suggest you switch over to Weo because it's much better. But either way, this is the way I was answering it. I was saying, due to high demand on this item, we've been fulfilling them directly through our manufacturer overseas, because that's still true. We always still direct fulfillment from China, which is why we inform of 7 to 10 days shipping on our store. Now, 7 to 10 days is not a bad shipping time. Okay, look, I understand that Amazon has taken over and is able to, and there's like 100 million Prime customers now. So, 2-day Prime shipping is amazing. You can't really compete with that unless you bring your items into a fulfillment house in the US or with FBA, right? But still, people, if it's a unique item and they like it, people are going to be willing to wait 7 to 10 days, especially if you're getting back to them in a nice way and you're explaining to them the process, okay? So that's what the due to high demand is, kind of giving them a reason and explaining why the item is coming from overseas, which, they'll see once they get it. Your item has been shipped and already in its transit. Here's a USPS tracking number. Of course, you insert the number. Please let us know if you have any questions. Leaving it open for future communication. Thanks, and then just a made-up name. Okay, I never make the VAs use their real name, and I never use my real name. I always just create like a basic generic girl's name, which is completely up to you. You can use your name if you want, or have your have your VA use their name. Either way, that's fine. Now, shipped with no tracking, okay? You shouldn't have to deal with this, but I do have a template here for this, and it's basically the same thing. You can just see this paragraph here says your item has not cleared customs yet, so there is not a tracking number yet. Once the item clears outbound customs, we can update you with a tracking number to follow it for the rest of delivery. Okay, so it's the same exact email. It's just changed and letting them know that there's no tracking number. But again, if you're using WIO, then you shouldn't have to ever deal with that situation. Shipped and delivered. Now this is an interesting one, okay, because this can happen regardless of who you're using as a supply chain, because a lot of times it's the fault of the customer. All right, so the idea here is, how do we tell them in a nice way, like, look, the order was delivered, so you need to check your your household there. And I've actually even had people say that the neighbor picked it up because the package was left outside. So a lot of times you just need to kind of put it back on them in a gentle way, which is exactly what this does. So everything is the same here. And I even include this still because it's kind of like giving them the full process. And then says your order was shipped via USPS and shows that it has been delivered already to the address you provided. Now, I always have this in the template to insert the full address from the order in case they actually entered the wrong address, right? Because then that's not our fault. If they actually entered the wrong address, like the wrong street number, or they spelled the street wrong, or they used the city wrong, or the zip code was wrong, all things that have happened before, okay? So that's number one, putting it back onto the information they gave you so they understand, because they might not realize. And then you give them the tracking number so they can look it up themselves. Please let us know if you have any questions. All right, so it kind of puts it back on them and says, look, we shipped this. The order was delivered to the address that you gave us. Here's the tracking number. You know, in a nice way, we're saying, please check again, because all we know is that it was shipped and delivered, right? So in this situation, sometimes you might have somebody come back and say, well, I never received it, or this, and whatever. And then you'll just have to figure out how to mitigate that with the customer, okay? But for the most part, I mean, it's probably about half and half, honestly. Half the time you're going to get people that are like, oh yeah, my husband picked it up, or my kids picked it up and I didn't even notice, or my neighbor was holding it because they saw that it was just sitting out on the doorstep and didn't want it to get stolen. But then sometimes you'll be like, oh, well, I never received it, or oh, the post office actually took it back, or, you know, like different things. So you'll just have to figure that out if they get back to you, but you're putting it on them to check again and get back to you if there's a problem. If the order is received but damaged and defective, now again, with WIO, there's quality control, all right, direct from the supplier. If you are fulfilling through AliExpress, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you don't know what that order is going to look like when it gets there. So this one requires a little bit more customization, right? Because they're going to be specifically complaining about some type of damage or defect. So thank you for your purchase. I'm sorry that your order, and then right here you restate customer's complaint, okay? Whatever they said. I'm sorry that your order came with a stain on it. I'm sorry that your order was packaged poorly. I'm sorry that your order was broken when you opened it, all right? And then next sentence, we really care about the experience our customers have with us. I'm going to make sure this gets taken care of for you. For quality control, so we can look into this issue, can you please send us a picture of the item for our records? Then I will ship a new item out to you at no extra cost, as well as refund your shipping charge for the inconvenience. Please let us know if you have any questions. Okay, so the beginning is the same, right? You're diffusing the situation here. Thank you, and I'm sorry. And then you're letting them know that you do care, and you're going to resolve this for them. So by now they should be pretty well kind of defused if they were upset or pissed off. For quality control, can you please send us a picture of the item for our records? You need this because you're then going to have to send this picture of the supplier to your, picture of this item to your supplier, right? Because this is not on you. If something got past quality control and arrived broken or defective, then the supplier should be shipping out a new one for free. All right, so you're going to take this, what they send you, and then send this to the supplier and say, look, we need to send out another one to this customer, okay? So you tell them you'll have a new item sent out at no extra cost. Now, the next one is going to be up for interpretation to you. I typically charge shipping on my stores. So I use shipping as the charge by default, and then it's something that like I can offer free shipping as an incentive, or in something like this, I can refund the shipping for them on the original order. Or you could do something like 10% back for your inconvenience, or we'd love to give you a 20% coupon code to our store for the inconvenience. Or we'd love to give you this free water bottle, whatever you decide. Just I would give them something, because it shows as a company you're going above and beyond, and you shouldn't have to do this too many times. So even if you end up only breaking even or taking a little bit of a loss on this, the happy customer is worth it, because if you piss the customer off and they decide they want to go start running their mouth on social media and threatening about the Better Business Bureau, like it's just a headache that you don't want to have to deal with. Order received but missing an item. All right, this is again, something you won't have to deal with Weo, because everything comes from the same supplier. But if you're using multiple suppliers and somebody ordered a different couple items, it's basically the same thing. Well, it's not really the same thing, but it's the same kind of concept, okay? There's two situations. If one situation could be that the one item was delivered and the other one wasn't yet. And so in that case, you're restating the problem and then saying, you're kind of explaining, to provide our customers with great deals on unique items, we use manufacturers from all around the world. Your order was actually fulfilled from different manufacturers, so you still have another package coming, kind of creating some excitement about it. Here's the tracking number for the undelivered item. Please let us know if you have any questions. Okay, now this one is for the wrong amount of items sent. So this goes back to the kind of the same thing as the defective email, but it just says I'll have the same exact thing really, except you're not asking for a picture because it's not a defect. They just didn't actually receive the item that they ordered, right? So you need to get it back out to them right away. This one, just one final note on this. Again, you won't have to deal with this if you're using Weo, but I understand that this is not the type of email you want to be sending as a company, right? You want to be consolidating your suppliers, and so that's why you should be using Weo. You won't have to use this email if you're using Weo and a direct supplier. The only reason I have this email template included is because for people that are drop shipping from AliExpress, if you're being stubborn and deciding you want to stick with Oberlo or Shopify for whatever reason, then there's going to be times where you're shipping multiple orders or multiple items from different suppliers, and you may run into this situation. Okay, a tip is AfterShip. If you haven't heard of this app, AfterShip can help cut down on the amount of order updates emails you get, because it automatically helps people to track their order. And also be prepared to receive and handle emails. Otherwise, those are when it can all pile up and start filing disputes and chargebacks. Generally, you should expect 10 to 30% of people that order from you to follow up with some sort of email. Unless you have really, really quick shipping times, you're probably going to need to be expecting that amount of emails coming in based on your order count. So if you do 1,000 orders in a month, you can probably expect anywhere from 100 to 300 emails coming in, at simultaneously as those orders are being processed, okay? Social media. Oh, and the last thing here is that one of the things you want to understand is a KPI, key performance indicator. So getting started, you're probably going to be handling the emails yourself. Or if you're already a little bit more established in your business and you're just branching into e-commerce, then you'll have somebody who's managing this, and you'll want to be closely watching how many emails they're able to handle a day. That way you can form a key performance indicator and say, all right, one person working 8 hours a day can handle X amount of emails. That way I know when I start to get to this number of emails, I need to have another person, right? So let's say you hire somebody part-time to start, all right? 4 hours a day. And in 4 hours a day, they can handle, let's say 100 emails, all right? So 4 hours a day, they can handle 100 emails. Now, once you start reaching 90, 95 emails a day, it's time to either bring on another person or to extend that person's hours to 8 hours so that they can handle 200 emails a day, okay? And that number is just a random example, but that's the idea of a KPI is you're figuring it out. So, and then if you get to the point where, all right, that person's handling 200 emails a day for 8 hours, and now we're getting, we're closing in on more than 200 emails a day, it's time to bring on a new person so that you constantly are staying ahead of the demand by having your key performance indicator. Next is social media management. Okay, social media management deals basically in two areas that we're talking about for customer support, right? I'm not talking about creating content and that. I'm just talking about supporting customers. And it's comments and messages, mostly on Facebook. All right, I know there's multiple social platforms, but your business page is on Facebook. You're probably running ads on Facebook. Most of the time on Facebook is where you're going to have to deal with comments and messages. Definitely messages, right? Like if people use your messenger to ask questions, but also comments on the ads that you're running. People will come back and say, people will come back and go back to that ad and comment if they didn't receive their order or if they were unhappy. So you're going to want to manage this closely as you're scaling your ads. Four main types of comments that you'll see could be questions about the product, negative comments, tagging other people, or just general nonsense. Okay. So if they have a question about the product, you should answer the question and have a link to the product included. Negative comments, I have two ways of dealing with this, all right? If it's something that you could spin into a positive, then I think you should respond. But if it's super negative, like sometimes people are on there with saying racial stuff and swearing and just like being completely over the line with what they say, I just ban and delete that, okay? It's not worth your time. I don't know if everybody agrees with that. Some people might say, oh no, you should try to always answer everything. Personally, there are just some people that are just miserable. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that actually purchased. I'm talking about just some random person trolling your ad. That's still customer service, right? They may not be a customer, but it falls into the customer service category because your other customers or future potential customers might be seeing that. So you need to monitor the negative comments closely. A lot of times, if it's a comment that you can spin into a positive, that reflects really well to other people because they see number one, that you care, and they see number two, that you're actually standing behind your product or your service. But again, some stuff is just so negative, there's no point in even trying to respond to it, especially if it's not based in any kind of fact or logic. It's just best to ban and delete those people. Tagging other people. Generally, if somebody tags somebody else, you can just respond with a product link. You don't always have to do it. I mean, it can get them to look a little spammy if you're doing it every single time somebody tags somebody. And then also there's just general nonsense comments, right? People will say like nice or awesome, or they'll say whatever, and I usually just like the comment and move on. Okay, these are all things that can be outsourced, right? Once you understand them, once you've done them, you can record a video of yourself going through and managing this, and then you can outsource them. But the more you scale your ads, the more you're going to have to deal with feedback on those ads. Okay, the final third piece here is disputes, chargebacks, and refunds, okay, which are obviously not a fun part of the business, but they're definitely part of the challenges of building and running an e-commerce business. So there's differences between these three. Disputes are happening through PayPal, okay, that's specific to PayPal. And disputes, you can actually usually win a dispute simply by going in there to update the order with the tracking number. When somebody disputes in PayPal, there's a difference, all right? A dispute is just them saying basically, hey, what's going on? And usually it's about the order time of delivery or the tracking or something. They're just putting the dispute in to get your attention and get a response. If you don't respond to the dispute, then it can be escalated to a claim, which is where you're going to have to submit evidence and PayPal is going to review it, and it's very similar to a chargeback, okay? Chargebacks are with a bank though. So chargebacks are when the customer calls their bank to reverse payment for their order. And as you can see, consumers have quite a long time to do this even after receiving the order. So the idea with the chargeback is that's specific to Shopify is when you get one, I think you get 15 days to respond, and then you basically you just have to give as much evidence as possible to show, what your store is selling and where all of your shipping and privacy and credit card files are all like clearly visible, right? And when you submit this, it's going to go back to the bank, and the bank is going to rule on it, right? And you can win chargebacks, but more often than not, you're probably going to lose them. They definitely suck, but it's just part of it. The only thing you can do is submit as much evidence as possible. In my opinion, most of the time, customers are wrong when they do chargebacks, because the only time really a customer is justified in a chargeback is if you're not responding to their email inquiries, or you're just not providing customer service. Otherwise, you should be able to rectify the situation if they had some sort of complaint or they hadn't received their item yet. You can always just refund them. Refunding a customer is better than getting a chargeback, because chargebacks hurt your processor reputation. And if your payment processor, if you get too many chargebacks, like 1% chargebacks in a billing period, it's going to affect your ability to get a merchant account, and you might even get your payment processor shut down. Refund requests are when a customer directly emails you to say they want a refund, obviously. Okay, so this your store refund policy is probably 30 days. But this is the nicest way a customer can do this, okay? Because now you have a chance to resolve it directly with them, which you usually can, all right? If they are really, really upset and there's just no way to make them happy, then I always go with the refund, because it's better to refund them than to have to deal with the chargeback or deal with somebody that gets irate and starts making threats and sending all kinds of emails and wasting your time, right? So you can, though, try to resolve it by offering an additional item, or, it kind of all depends on your strategy. Usually based on the wholesale cost being low, a lot of times you can offer to send a new one, or offer to send like some type of cross-sell item to them for free and still actually break even, as opposed to if you just do a complete refund, then you are losing the money for the sale, but you're also out the money for the cost of goods sold. Disputes with PayPal, responding to them immediately when you receive the notice. Like I said, usually people just want to get your attention. They have a question. This is handled in the resolution center of PayPal, but the main thing is don't let it escalate to the claim. I've talked with PayPal before, because when I first got started, I remember being worried because I was shipping a lot of orders, and I started to have a lot of disputes in there, even though these disputes weren't like real. The word dispute makes it sound like there's an argument. These weren't arguments. These were just people saying like, hey, can I get an update on my tracking? Or, hey, I never received my item. Where's the tracking information? They were just using the dispute feature in PayPal because I guess it was just easiest for them, right? So as long as you're getting back to them and as long as you're answering these disputes, PayPal doesn't really care how many disputes you have. What PayPal cares about is claims, because claims show that you could be a bad seller, right? If you're starting to get a lot of claims, it's kind of the same as chargebacks. But again, it's usually easy to win these disputes simply by providing the tracking number. Dispute falls away even if the customer. So once the customer creates a dispute, if they go, I forget, if they go like 15 days or something without updating it, then the dispute just falls away. Oh, you have 45 days to respond. I thought it was 15. So chargebacks from the bank, you have 45 days to respond. If you lose, you have to pay a fee on top of returning the money. They are hard to win. Merchants tend to side in the favor of customers. But you want to provide as much information as possible. You can try to reach out to the customer to solve the problem directly, because you'll see their email, and so you can just email and be like, hey, I saw we had a chargeback, and just kind of walk through the process of saying that you would really like to solve the situation for them however you can. With refund requests, you always want to try to deflect the situation as best you can, depending on the reason for the refund. All right, if they ordered something and don't like the quality of the item, you can offer to send them another and give them a partial refund on it. If they are unhappy with the delivery time, then you can remind them of your policies and offer a partial refund. If the item is damaged or defective, but they wanted it, then off you could send them a new one with a partial refund, right? Like if it's damaged and defective and they want a new one, then obviously you can just send them a new one. But if they want to keep the one that they have and they still want a new one, I just say okay and send a new one. Refund email template. Same thing up top here. Thank you for your purchase. I'm sorry to hear of whatever this issue was, and I want to resolve this for you. Your satisfaction is important. I'd like to offer this solution. We can send a new item free of charge, and you don't have to worry about sending your item back. Plus, I'll credit you with a 30% refund for the inconvenience. Now, 30% is actually quite a bit. You don't have to do that much, but ending with a question, would that resolve this for you? Thank you for your patience. I look forward to hearing your response. Okay, that's a solid email that you can use in dealing with refund requests. The overall success of your customer let me say that again. The overall success of your store is going to be based on your customer support now more than ever. This is something that can really help you stand apart. Like I said, customer service is 100% about making the customer feel like they matter and are important to your business. Because a lot of times people don't feel that these days anymore with so many brands and stores out there. Situations can be resolved simply by starting to thank them, acknowledging their issue, and agreeing with their issue, and then offering a solution. That's the best way to disarm anybody, okay? Make sure you respond quickly, use proper grammar, write professional sentences, and create KPIs to understand when it's time to bringing in a new person for outsourcing before like you reach that actual point. And then the final side, recommended reading. Zappos wrote an amazing book on delivering. It's called Delivering Happiness, but it's a customer service book, basically, okay? And it talks about how to create a really great customer service culture and customer service team, and has all kinds of good stuff in it. Dale Carnegie is an amazing book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is one of my favorite books of all time. This doesn't talk about customer service specifically, but it's a great, great book to read if you want to understand exactly how it says. If you want to understand how to win friends and influence people, which basically is one of the most powerful things you can do in customer service, because if you understand how to win people over and how to influence these poor decisions or these poor experiences and turn them into great experiences, then you're going to do really well, right? And that's why I like this book. It's practical, it's filled with so much great ideas, and it can help anybody that reads that book will be good at customer service, right? I mean, other things too, but definitely good at customer service. Okay, so that's everything for this video and the customer service video, and just giving you some basic guidelines of how to set up a great customer service system for your store. I will see you in the next video.